This is the Dollemore Daily, and I'm Jesse Dollemore.
Look, I know everybody wants to wait to get to the end of the video. Just can't wait to get to the end of the video to see the offer from today's sponsor, Sheath. But you're just going to have to wait. Thanks to Sheath, my absolutely favorite underwear company, for sponsoring a portion of today's video. So, that just broke. Donald Trump just filed a motion in the matter of appealing the verdict in the business fraud case, where he now owes over $454 million with about $112,000 worth of interest accruing every single day to the total. And he and his lawyers have filed this particular motion to try to appeal, but only give, rather than the full amount of the bond, which is the full amount owed if the appeal doesn't go his way. They postulate that actually we'll just give you about a quarter of that, about $100 million. Before I get to that, remember when Donald Trump came down a stupid escalator in 2015 and said, "I'm really rich. Oh, yeah." Remember this?
I'm really rich. I'll show you that in a second.
And since then, he has tried to convince Americans time and time again that he's worth $10 billion, $9 billion, $8 billion. $10,000 million he claims to be worth. $10,000 million. And yet, all he can come up with, the little Trump, is $100 million. Certainly he's a rich guy, but he's a liar about the extent and the magnitude of his actual wealth. Let me read from this court filing. It's remarkable here. Appellants plan to post $100 million undertasking. The purpose of an appeal bond is to maintain the status quo during the appeal and to ensure efficient resources are available to satisfy any judgment affirmed. Here, any judgment affirmed by this court would be adequately secured by the precise oversight the Attorney General sought and has relied on during the pendency of these entire proceedings, augmented by a $100 million undertaking appellant's plan to post forthwith. Now, that is not the amount that is required by New York state law. It's not an amount that's required by the judge. It's required by New York state law. Now, here is the part where Donald Trump just admits, I don't have it. I don't got the money, and you can't make me pay it. Although, that is untrue. Irreparable harm adheres to appellants from any forced sale of properties. In the absence of a stay on the terms herein outlined, properties would likely need to be sold to raise capital under exigent circumstances, and there would be no way to recover any property sold following a successful appeal, and no means to recover the resulting financial losses from the Attorney General. Thus, Supreme Court and Attorney General will have succeeded in imposing a punitive and irreversible financial sanction even where appellants prevail on appeal. Simply put, appellants would be unable to recover the value of that which was taken by the court and the Attorney General during the pendency of the appeal. Now, this is like an almost 1,800-page document, most of which is exhibits. You have to get all the way down. There'll be a link in the description for you to peruse at your leisure. But there was an answer by the Attorney General in this letter to the clerk of the court. Dear Ms. Rojas, I write on behalf of plaintiff respondent, people of the state of New York, by Letitia James, Attorney General of the state of New York, in opposition to the emergency application filed by dependents appellants. Now, there is a lot here. It's not a long, it's like 35 pages. I'm going to read from page 2 and 3 because they get right to it. But I want you to understand that Donald Trump could just go to a company that would put up the bond for him, like an IOU. He doesn't have to sell property. He doesn't have to. I think what's going on here is Donald Trump's properties aren't worth what he says they are, which is very telling in a case that surrounds that very topic. He said he's worth $10 billion, very clear he's not, and he's dealing with an appeal in a case that addresses that very topic. Him claiming properties are worth more than they are, telling the government they're worth less than they are, and telling banks they're worth far more than they are. It's all a shell game and a bunch of lies with this guy. And even in his notice to appeal and this particular item, it's just confirming that the verdict was correct. Here's this from the Attorney General's office. Contrary to the defendant's argument, there is no basis to grant a stay pursuant to the court's inherent powers because defendants may readily preserve the status quo by securing the disgorgement amount through a bond or a deposit of funds with the court. There is no merit to defendants' contention that a full bond or deposit is unnecessary because they are willing to post a partial undertaking of less than a quarter of the judgment amount. Defendants all but concede Mr. Trump has insufficient liquid assets to satisfy the judgment. Defendants would need to raise capital to do so. There's one more half of a paragraph, or just a sentence or two that I'm going to read. But what this indicates, because the bond is to secure the verdict, that if you want to appeal, great, but you got to put up the whole amount that you were fined, that you are liable for. And the reason they do that is because if you lose your appeal, that person still gets the money. The fact that they can't even put up the whole amount means the whole amount needs to be put up. Here's that last sentence. These are precisely the circumstances for which a full bond or deposit is necessary, where defendants' approach would leave OAG with substantial shortfalls once the court affirms the judgment. A prevailing plaintiff is entitled to have her award secured, and defendants have never demonstrated that Mr. Trump's liquid assets could satisfy the full amount of the judgment. It doesn't get any more plain than that. Donald Trump lied about the money he has, and now it's coming to pass. I said a week ago, was it? He doesn't have the money. And now we know. He said, his lawyers have filed in a sworn court document, he doesn't have the money. I'm sure that the $100 million they do have is replete with campaign donor money too. Donald Trump spending $80 million over the course of the last year for his rising legal bills that are paid for by donor money, which is interesting because in the clip, I'll play the rest of it here when he says how rich he is. He doesn't need donor money. Remember that from 2015? Remember that, Trump supporters from 2015? So rich. I don't need your money. I don't need lobbyist money or donor money. I will self-fund my campaign.
Because I don't need anybody's money. It's nice. I don't need anybody's money. I'm using my own money. I'm not using the lobbyists. I'm not using donors. I don't care. I'm really rich. I'll show you that in a second.
And they forget that, or they ignore it, that he's a liar. At every single point all along the way, Donald Trump has lied about his wealth, about his brains, about his family, about everything. He's a liar. And now, hopefully the judge, the court, in this matter, will say, no, you will abide by the law. Either go get a bond from a corporation that will secure it, or sell some property and come up with the money. Because either way, when this goes down the way that it's very likely to go down, with appeal being denied or losing an appeal, the money's going to have to be provided anyway. What do you think? I'd love to know. You can call. Leave me a brief voicemail, 714-576-4054. Of course, you can email me, daily@dollemore.com. We can also mix it up in the comments that will trigger YouTube to share this content with unsuspecting new audience members. I love and appreciate you. Stick around for a word from my favorite. In fact, I'm wearing them right now. Too much information, I know, but we're here. This is where we are. Stick around for a great offer from Sheath Underwear. Here in the United States, we grant separate powers to three co-equal branches of government: the legislative, the executive, and the judicial. Divided, each branch can better support the working of our government as a whole. Why shouldn't this practice carry over to the governing of our own bodies? Rather than allowing your branch and berries to stew in a single stuffy cesspool, well, why not divide so as to diminish your discomfort? Sheath Underwear is here to help you separate your church and your state. Sheaths are the only underwear with a dual pouch system scientifically designed to keep your executive branch separated from your judicial, if you know what I mean. Democratize your drawers. Head to sheathunderwear.com/Dollemore now and score 20% off right away. It was invented by a U.S. Army veteran while serving a tour in Iraq. The idea for Sheath arose from the discomfort that was experienced in these harsh environments. As a former United States Marine stationed in that part of the world, I get the inspiration. I wear Sheath every single day, and they are the only boxers that can agreeably accommodate my tree trunk thighs and keep my branches of government carefully compartmentalized. And I'm not the only fan out there. Sheath are recommended by multiple doctors and urologists and have over 20,000 five-star reviews. The airflow meshes, they're my favorite personally, but Sheath has tons of excellent styles and designs. And once you pick, Sheath will land them on your doorstep nearly instantly, thanks to blindingly fast shipping and amazing customer service. Also, your purchase doesn't just help you out. Sheath supports multiple charities like Socks for Soldiers and Doctors Without Borders. So you're making the world a better place too. Upgrade your undergarments right now. Score 20% off when you head to sheathunderwear.com/Dollemore and divide and conquer your discomfort with Sheath Underwear.